right, you guys, welcome back to the channel yet again. I know it's been about 9 months or so since the last video, but I am back. And what better way to be back than making videos and having fun and talking about some controversial opinions right here, as we always do. Number one, I'm grateful for everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed, everything on the channel in the last, 2 years. So let's return to form. Let's start with a whole new video. Haven't seen this one actually, which is surprising because I feel like I watched so many reaction videos and other channels covering this and just the actual videos themselves. So that's what we're going to watch today. This is a Jubilee video. If you don't know about Jubilee, they are essentially a channel. They try to promote a middle ground of two different points of view on different topics. They have some specific questions they ask, and they have various amounts of people on each side, depending on what the topic is and how many people they want per group. And that's what they do. So this video is called, "Is Pride Still Necessary? Conservative versus Liberal Gays." So I figured this would be interesting. I have not seen this. I don't know the questions. I don't know anything. Obviously, I will have to cut out a lot and skip around and stuff, and we won't do everything because it's it's a 52-minute long video. And we'll probably break it up into two parts, maybe. If you want part two, let me know. But let's get right into this. The first question I have seen is called, "The gay community is oversexualized." So my initial response to this is yes, absolutely it is. It's not to say that the heterosexual world isn't also very sexual, but the gay world is just a whole nother world, a whole nother level of super sexuality. If you've seen anything to do with any of the pride parades, I've never been to one, mostly because I probably run away screaming because of all of the rampant sex stuff going on. And well, there's way more important things to being a gay person than just the sex. Yes, the sexual orientation is the point, but is it actually over-sexualized in general? I would say yes. Let's see who agrees and what they have to say.
The gay community is over-sexualized. Can the agreeers please step forward?
The gay community, because, it's based off of our sexual attraction, it has a very easy time going into a space that's all about sex. To me, being gay is a lot more than who I sleep with,
Yep.
It's an experience from when I grew up. The movement used to be about love, but then you go to a pride parade now and you're seeing old men with their genitals out.
I think everybody has a right to express their sexuality in the ways that they do it. So on those grounds, I'm not offended by these old people right. doing what they're doing. But I do agree with that. I think one of the biggest challenges when I was coming out to my dad, who's Muslim, it was my sexuality, being gay, isn't just about my sexual lust for other men. It's more about the spiritual connections, the in-depth things. Me as a whole complex person, I do think that our experiences and our existence has kind of been trivialized by the over-sexualizations. I don't think it's inherently an evil.
And the over-sexualization is apparent in the apps that we can get. I mean, you can literally have sex on demand, or you could find it in a location wherever you want. Certain businesses are actually keeping.
That is true. Obviously, the apps like Grindr and stuff are very real. But I always wonder if there are statistics for whether or not the rate of gay hookup world, culture, whatever you want to call it, if it's more evidence of that being in the gay world, gay community, whatever, versus the heterosexual world. I think in general, hookup culture has dramatically changed in the last 10 years of me being out of high school, since I came out. And I've never partaken in any of that. I have no interest in that. I am here for the actual relationship. The other stuff doesn't mean anything to me without the relationship. So whatever you call that, that's how I feel about that in general. But the idea, he's trying to make it sound like it's a very easy thing. And yes, it is. But I'm not sure how much easier it is in terms of that being a gay guy thing versus just in general hookup culture as a whole for everyone involved. Of course, it's easier than ever before. I don't know if that's something specific to the gay community. It's prevalent, but is it really that much more prevalent than the heterosexual world or anything else? I don't know. So the funny thing is, I actually recognize both of these guys. I have seen him a lot. Carson, that's his name, Carson. Took me a minute. And this over here is Amir Odom on the left. I've been following him for a while. He has a lot of great takes as well on the gay community and the LGBT community, all that kind of stuff. Like I've talked about my videos, big inspiration for my channel and a lot of my views. So both of them I'm familiar with. The other two people I'm not, and the other two or four people on the liberal side I'm not familiar with. So, but these two I definitely know very well.
Doors open because men are having sexual relations in the bathrooms, and that's inappropriate. I mean, we want our privacy too, just like women, and now we can't even have our privacy because a small sect of men ruin it for us.
Yeah, and that was really frustrating too. When I came out the closet, it was like I had this innate pressure, like, oh, I have to download Grindr, I have to be super sexualized, and that's really bad on our youth because although everyone has sex, I get that, but why is it that our community is so hyper-focused on that?
I haven't attended many Pride events because of that reason. And I was able to go to Portugal, and there was this queer retreat. And it was like the first time I felt like safe and secure as a queer person because it wasn't sexual, and I could have these relationships with queer men, but there's no expectation to be sexual.
Yeah, and we see it at the bars. I mean, it's little go-go
You
boys
go to a gay
praying-
club,
you
you're
go to
getting
a gay club,
grabbed.
You are.
You're getting
You-
hugged,
It's
you're
an
getting
expectation to be
groped.
sexual at the clubs. And I mean, I avoid them at all costs at this point.
Now everyone joins and we're going to hear from everyone.
I think it's easy to generalize our community as over-sexualized because we're in it, so we're focused on it. But if you look at the straight community, I think they're doing a lot of what we're doing, especially now with more sexual liberation becoming a thing for them
That's
and their
what I said.
community.
That's
I
true.
also think that we have to remember, like, we've only been legal, as in like decriminalized in our sex for 20 years this year. That's crazy. Every year up until 20 years ago, like, there's going to be an explosion of people wanting to embrace their sexual liberation. And then you look at things like the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, like that took away so many people and it made us afraid to have sex. So this, in my opinion, is a way for us to overcome stuff, and we definitely need to find a balance.
The basis for making us illegal has always been based on sex. And so being openly sexual in any way at all whatsoever is inherently a protest, inherently subversive. I mean, there are sexual things that happen in public that I'm sometimes uncomfortable with, but that doesn't mean that all the things we see and all the things our friends see represent the majority of experiences. A huge portion of LGBTQ people exist in zero public LGBTQ spaces.
I think you draw the line of, you do this in the comfort of your home and you can show affection in public. I don't know if we need to be like indecent in public. I don't know if that would be considered.
How do you define indecent?
I'm in a 20-year relationship, a 20-year monogamous relationship with my husband. And I say husband even though we're not married, but we're not groping each other in public. We can peck, we joke around. When we walk into a room, they know we're together because we give, yes, absolutely. We show extra affection at home in the privacy of our home or in the privacy of friends' homes because we feel comfortable in that.
And you know what that though is your
true.
specific preference for public affection. There are a million rom-coms out there for with heterosexual people, and a funny thing seen in that movie is straight people having sex in some public space.
Correct.
This is a.
I still don't think that's appropriate.
I don't
Straight
necessarily
people,
do
gay
either.
people
I
having
don't
sex in a
necessarily
public
do either.
space
I'm
is
just
not
saying we're
appropriate.
talking about personal preferences.
I know, but I think a lot of times in this, and I don't disagree with what you guys said, but a lot of times what I'll hear is like, well, the straight people do this, and I always grew up saying I clean my house before I tell somebody else to clean theirs. I'm not straight.
Right.
Therefore, if straight people are doing something wrong and gay people are doing something wrong, I'm going to address the gay people that are doing something
But
wrong
should we
and
be
not
addressing
point
like
the
the
finger.
people who have been setting the stage for all of us to like follow suit with? You know, like we live in a heteronormative culture, like everything that we see is based off of the way that they exist.
The whole idea of over-sexualization and things like that, I think the danger in it is that for so long it's been weaponized against us, so we're always kind of like under this magnifying glass of like, oh, well, can I hold hands? Can I kiss this person? And then, you know, I don't think we necessarily have to like mimic quote unquote bad behavior simply because that was what was served to us.
All right, so before they go to the next thing, a point I would make, my own experience, I came out a decade ago when I graduated high school. It seems crazy to even say that. It's true. So I came out and graduated and stuff 2014 just as gay marriage was becoming legal in 2015. And, you know, I was dating my first boyfriend at the time, so the whole thing. And so seeing how all of that started, and I remember being afraid to hold hands, being afraid to kiss in public, you know, hug in public, anything, was so foreign and new to me, you know. And it literally took him basically crying in front of me, like in the middle of college campus. Like we had like a free period. We used to like have lunch together. We were sitting outside on the grass, and he was like literally crying and like very frustrated that like I wouldn't hold hands and I wouldn't engage in any kind of PDA stuff because I was so nervous about what other people would say and what it will look like and everything else. Um, and that was just such a experience that I it's been a decade and I haven't forgotten that because that's what really broke me out of my shell and made me realize like it doesn't matter what other people think. And you know, if every other straight person goes on holding hands, so can I. Screw them, right? If they have a problem, then of course nobody really had a problem. And seeing how that's changed over the years, obviously it's only improved. Hopefully, so that's my personal story on that. Like, absolutely, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. And I think it was using that kind of discretion and growing up in a place where it was figuring out where is it safe to hold hands, where is it not safe to hold hands, or whatever. You know, just to be more mindful of that. You know, just because you can doesn't mean you should all the time, obviously. You know, so that's my stance on that. So next question is a really good one. The title of the video, obviously, is pride still necessary? They're saying 83% of people say yes and 17% say no. I'm going to say, I'll let them talk first and I'll give my answer.
Pride is still necessary.
Yeah, I think pride's necessary, but we need a PR revamp. Yeah, I think we need a rebrand. I take a lot of issues with what I see at pride parades now, just because, you know, as we've discussed previously, I think that it's a little bit over-sexualized. We're celebrating essentially sex rather than love. And we have people running around riding bikes with their balls out in front of kids. And for me,
Where are you seeing this?
Yeah,
what
I'm
prides are
curious
you
about
going
that,
to?
New York
seen it
City
all over the place.
and Seattle, both of those had naked people walking the streets.
Walking
San
on
Francisco,
bikes?
one of them was on a bike. I saw the video of him on a bike. I didn't want to
I
see
would
it,
never
but I
have my
did.
balls out on a bike. That sounds dangerous.
Well, no, me either.
It's dangerous.
Me either, but
you
it's,
can't even
it's
ride a
the
bike,
fact
I
that it
wouldn't
is
do that.
allowed because we have this shield of it's pride, don't mess with gay people because of our history, which is granted. But people are afraid to look at our culture and say that's not acceptable because if straight people were walking around doing that, it would be a totally different discussion.
I don't think that's the majority of the issue, though. I mean, the reality is that being visible, period, is vital.
Absolutely.
We can be
none of
visible
us
without
will,
being sexual.
none of us will be alive to see the day when heterosexual people and homosexual people have equal agency in what's allowed and what's not allowed in the public space.
Me personally, I actually think pride is very necessary. I love it. I wouldn't say pride parades. I feel like you guys are leaning towards like the parades itself. Pride is like liberation, you know.
Proud of who you are and just loving yourself,
and
accepting yourself.
Yeah, accepting yourself and having the people around you in your circle really accept you. It really tells the future generation, like, not only is it okay, but look how far we've come. At 2011, you know, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy was abolished. I'm in the military, and had that not been abolished, I would not be able to be, you know, a minority, be openly gay, and still be able to serve my country.
Yeah, and I want to just say thank you for your service before I move on. And that's a prime example of the pride that I would love to attend, is someone who highlights service members, gay CEOs, people who are successful, who are contributing to society. Celebrate who you are, love who you are, but the pride is no longer about being overly promiscuous because we're not allowed to. We don't need to overcorrect to the point that we start to get backlash. We need to correct our PR.
But I still think we're looking at a small group of the people that are at pride.
But the
'cause you
small
said,
groups,
like,
but they speak the loudest.
No, but they don't always. You said you saw.
Well, here's one of the things I would say. You know, I definitely agree with most of what he's saying because he's saying, yes, it should be celebrated. It should be acknowledged that, yes, people around the world can be gay and can still be successful CEOs, can be successful military personnel, whatever it is. The bigger thing is that it really comes down to whether or not being gay is your entire life or your personality. It's hard to word, but basically to the point where I'm just a gay guy at the end of the day. And this is something that I've had to kind of wrestle with and understand about myself. The funniest thing of all was coming out when I did, when marriage was becoming legal and all this stuff was happening, is everything I saw on TV, everything I saw on YouTube videos of kids coming out to their parents and stuff. Every video had me bawling. I remember crying over every video just about that I found of guys coming out to their parents and their friends and stuff, and like filming their reactions and everything. You know, and this is like, you know, very old school YouTube and stuff like that. And I just remember watching all these videos and just saying, like, I'm gonna have to go through this. It's going to be this huge ordeal. Shows like Modern Family, we used to watch that as a family, and just seeing how dramatic, you know, Cam and Mitchell were, and it's this whole thing of I have to come out to every person alive, and it's going to be this huge heartbreaking thing, and we're going to sit here for hours and cry and drink tea, and I don't know. It's just going to be this huge ordeal, and worrying endlessly, like, are my friends going to accept me? Every one of my friends in real life are all straight guys. And I have one friend that from middle school that is, you know, a woman who's also straight. I don't have any gay friends. I've never had any gay friends in real life once in the last 10 years or before that. So I'm not surrounded by other people like me, and that's fine. And that's where part of that comes into my mindset of being gay ended up not being this huge revelation for me. It didn't end up being this huge thing where every person I'm coming out and it's this huge ordeal like the shows and some of these videos were. And it's not to discredit those people's experiences. Obviously, many of them are very emotional and very gut-wrenching and very powerful and very questioning of, you know, will people accept me or not? Obviously, people's situations are different. I knew since 6th grade I was gay. I was looking at guys and just saying, wow, I like his hair, I like his jeans, whatever, you know, in the dumb little way that is. And, you know, I didn't have a word for it. I just looked at guys differently than I looked at girls, and I was kind of aware of that by the time like 7th and 8th grade hit. And my friends, you know, me being Mr. Masculine, normal guy, you know, drummer for 16 years now, no feminine traits or stereotypes to live up to. That's how I've always been. That's how I present, and I'm very aware of that. I've always been aware of that. That's the way I am. And to me, it's all about this idea of it's not this huge part of my life. I'm just a guy that likes guys. That's it. That's all it means to me. It's not more than that. It's not less than that. That's all it is. There's a million other things about me that are interesting, more interesting than that, more boring than that. You know, it's just one small part of my life. And once I started coming out to my friends and stuff and my family and all that, and that's the experience I had, it was like, other than them being surprised because I didn't have these stereotypes to kind of be like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. We kind of saw the writing on the wall. You know, there was none of that. It was quite the opposite. Like I practically had to kiss a guy in front of them for them to believe me, in some sense, just because I didn't have that kind of presentation, and I don't. Are there days that I wish I did have a little bit more of a feminine thing going, a little bit more stereotypical presentation? Sure. I mean, as a curiosity, yes, I wonder sometimes, would it make things easier? Would it make things harder? Who knows? I'm grateful for the way I am, and no one ever gave me issues for coming out and being myself. But it is to that point where is pride necessary? Like everyone knows gay people exist now. We have our right to marry. We have our right to do these things. So yes, I absolutely agree that the use of pride has changed dramatically from we just want to get married, we just want to love who we want to love, and that's what it was all about. That's what I always heard growing up, and it made sense to me. And I said, yeah, that's all I want. That's enough for me. Everything else is kind of secondary to that, and it's not this huge, mind blowing thing for me personally. And so, it's just one aspect of my life. So let's see what he has to say here.
Saw 2 people naked, like from
No,
those
2 separate instances of groups of people who were naked
Out of
with their
hundreds of
butts
thousands.
out.
Exactly,
Right,
around the
exactly.
world, and
but
like
that
you were
gets
saying,
highlighted.
looking at specific things with a level of shame, and then have to look at like where are we shameful within ourselves, and why is that something that we should be ashamed of in general? Like why is nudity shameful in general?
I agree with you about nudity itself is not sexual. I don't think so. Because I have been to new places and it's not sexual, but when you make it sexual, that's the problem. It can be indecent exposure at some of these things, and pride needs to not be complacent and address it.
This should be interesting.
Yes, heels. Come on.
I know. I'm alone on this one. But the reason I'm alone on this one is because I organized one of the most successful prides in my community in 2016. I invited groups that were outside the norm, like the NRA and the local GOP, including the Democrats. Because for me, it was important that this event reach the entire community more than just saying we are a sexual being. We wanted to educate the people. I was told I was never allowed to help them again because how dare I invite a hate group like the NRA when all I wanted to do was arm LGBT people and educate them on how to protect themselves, because as you guys said, there are those people who would hurt us. I live in a very, very red community. Okay, Mike Garcia is my representative.
And Santa Clarita?
Yeah, Santa Clarita. But I dress like this to galas, big government galas, realtor galas. No one has said anything to me. And in fact, all I get is positive affirmation that, hey, you're living your best life. And I say, it's not really necessary because I can walk down my street in heels and braids.
In California.
Yeah, you are so privileged in that way.
Yeah.
In Republican-controlled California,
A recent
yes.
poll of Californians found that 35% of Californians feel that homosexuality should be discouraged.
I've done this
so
in
Michigan. You're in an LA
I've done this in Michigan. I've done this in Tennessee. I've done this in Missouri.
And you
I've
walk
done
around
this
like this in all those states.
Yes, I have.
I will say
Yes,
that
I
Santa
have.
Clarita
And I have had
is
absolutely
slightly red.
no
It's not
issues.
completely
I walked
red.
into a backwoods bar in the middle of Nashville where it was a double wide that had been converted to a bar, and it was one of those record
What
scratch.
does your husband look like?
My husband is 6'4" and he's
And there's your
a man.
protection.
That's not my protection. I
bullshit.
walk in that community dressed just like this in these heels, and not only do I not get hate, my husband gets more business.
I'm so happy for you that this is true for you. I really am.
Yeah,
But the
totally.
reality is that you represent a small minority of LGBTQ people and how they actually experience life in America.
To your sense of freedom, which is so admirable, I think that those things are built on blocks of people who probably did feel that pride was necessary. So it's a beautiful thing that we can have the freedom to,
Okay, well, this kind of went into a whole attack on the guy. You know, at the end of the day, we're all individuals. We all only have our individual experiences to draw from. Just like I said in mine, yes, I'm lucky to have the life that I had. People accept me. It was never an issue. Like I said, many of those videos were of people coming out that I watched over the years were very emotional, very, very tense, and reading horror stories of people that were kicked out and people that were sent to conversion therapy. So yes, not everyone is as lucky. Not everyone lives in a perfect part of the world where this is a thing. Try this in Saudi Arabia, walking in those heels. In Pakistan, Jamaica, it's a crime. Parts of Africa, it's a crime. This is not just a U.S. thing, of course. There are parts of the world where you're not getting 3 feet down the street looking like that. It's a little crime in these places. And it just goes to show that they're saying, well, basically, well, you're so lucky that you have that ability to walk around wherever you want like this and nobody cares. But most people don't have that kind of experience. Again, what are the statistics for that? I don't know. But regardless, everyone's an individual. And yeah, some people have it a little bit easier than others. That doesn't mean you can't change your situation. You can't change where you live. You certainly can. If you're in an area that's not safe or not good for that sort of thing, you always have an ability to move. So you can make your situation better. It's not a hopeless situation, which is kind of what they're making it sound like, which is strange. So yes, nobody has the same experience as you. That's just stating the obvious, but weaponizing that against the guy and saying, well, it's really not fair that you have that ability and you shouldn't really be mentioning that, or just discrediting that in general is very strange. Like every one of them is here on this platform able to promote themselves because they have some kind of advantage that clearly they're demonstrating that other people like them don't have. So, whether it's walking around and looking like those heels and all of that, very flamboyant, okay, good for him. Other than that, it's like they're all still here on a platform promoting themselves with some kind of advantage over other people that obviously are less privileged or in not a same kind of situation they are in. To do that, so it's a weird double standard. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here for this first part of the video. If you want to see part 2, let me know down below. And be sure to check out the channel because I'm back, and we're going to look at a lot more controversial opinions yet again, right here.